In this town, there's no off-season. The news never stops, and neither do we. It's always game day in Cleveland with Andy Baskin and Daryl Ryder.
Oh, ho, ho, it's like Christmas for the Browns, but not really, because it's a Grinch Christmas right now with everything that's going on. And there are a ton of topics to get to about the Browns over the last, I don't know, even 24 hours, 12 hours even perhaps. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. It is always game day in Cleveland, brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Daryl, let's start with the biggest news of the day. Kevin Stefanski will no longer call plays for the offense.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bombshell that came out of nowhere 3/4 of the way into Stefanski's Wednesday availability. He was asked the question, who's going to call plays this week? And Stefanski volunteered that he has turned things over voluntarily. He says this is his decision, that it's going to be
That's
Ken
a wink
Dorsey.
for anybody who's just straight listening and not watching on YouTube. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yep.
Because I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe he had the authority when it came to Deshaun Watson, and I certainly don't believe that this was his decision. But he said that it was his decision after further evaluation. Ken Dorsey, come on down. Like Ken Dorsey, think about this, Andy. Ken Dorsey was brought in to, quote, fix Deshaun Watson or whatever.
Right.
Fix the offense. Didn't get to call plays when Deshaun was on the field. Now that Deshaun's gone for the season, Ken Dorsey, come on down. It's all yours. This train wreck here for you to clean up. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It reeks of desperation. It, quite frankly, Andy, it reeks of a coach who's about to get his ass fired. That's what it smells to me like.
Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at it, and at least this is what we thought of when it immediately happened, was one, the scenario that you laid out, two, an option to have an offensive coordinator to fire if things still continue to not work out and you believe in your head coach that's a two-time coach of the year. I mean, now is probably a good time to make the change because, Daryl, you tell me, if Deshaun Watson's the starting quarterback on Sunday, is Kevin Stefanski calling plays?
Probably, yeah.
That's what I think too. So because they did the quarterback change, which also doesn't make sense because of what you had said, and I think somebody had asked it in the press conference as well, and Kevin said, "Well, we don't see it that way. It's a collaborative effort." So,
and you know what? That very well might be the Browns' problem right there. A little too much collaboration going on. You know what I mean? Like, there is a such thing as having too many cooks in the kitchen.
All right, so who are we blaming for the Deshaun Watson deal too? Because a lot of people talk about that, and then, you know, as we found out a few weeks ago, no one's still talking about it. Ultimately, will Paul DePodesta get the blame? Who's getting the blame for this?
I think the people that signed off on it should get the blame, but you can't fire them because they own the team. But they signed off on the deal. They signed off on 6 draft picks going to the Houston Texans. And they signed off on a fully guaranteed $230 million contract.
So where are we going, Daryl? Where is this offense going? What are they going to do? And by the way, is anyone not expecting the offense to look better? You're going to be back to a semi-healthy offensive line that's almost there for your original tandem. An offensive line that was built for the run. Can we be honest about that? Not built for the pass.
Right.
And so, you know, you got Nick Chubb back this week. You're going up against – I know the Ravens are a really good football team, but defensively, the offense should have their first chance to be healthy, with the exception of having, you know, Amari Cooper out there right now, who's now playing in Buffalo. This should be a week that the offense should be able to get rolling.
Well, what
should be.
Right? Like, I don't know. The only thing that I can think of right now, Andy, is that maybe the offense will at least be entertaining to watch with Jameis Winston at the helm, right?
I agree. Yeah.
They may score some more points. He's probably going to throw some more interceptions, but at least it's going to be fun to watch, right? Because let's be honest about it, the first 7 weeks was like a 7-week-long root canal with no Novocaine.
It was 99. It was like watching 99.
I mean, so here's the rankings. Let me, I feel like this is now a weekly feature on here. It's always game day in Cleveland. Here is where the Browns rank offensively. They
Brought
rank
to you by any basement company in America. Go ahead.
Yes, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, feel free to hit it up our lovely.
No, just this segment. Who's in last place or who's near the bottom of the NFL in stats?
Okay, here we go. Here's the weekly offensive rankings for your Cleveland Browns. 32nd in yards, 32nd in yards per play, 32nd in passing yards per play, 32nd in sacks, 32nd in third down efficiency. Lo and behold, they're tied for 31st in first downs per game. Otherwise, they would be, you guessed it, 32nd. They're 30th in passing, 29th in scoring per game. They're tied for 28th in rushing and tied for 20th in rushing yards per attempt this season.
It's not good. Not good at all. Thank you for those numbers. Brought to you by any waterproofing basement repair system you can possibly think of. Thank you. We appreciate the sponsorship of Air. That sucks, Daryl. That absolutely sucks. The offense has nowhere to go but up. There's no question about it. So what will Jameis Winston look like in this offense?
I have no idea.
Or as we like to call him on our show, we're calling him the Reverend now.
Oh,
because he is preaching like crazy, man. He is preaching. When you listen to him talk, it's hard not to be entertained and hard not to be motivated. He is the preacher. Reverend. Yeah. You're dead quiet on that. He does. He's infectious. He's a motivator. I get it.
There are things that I would love to say that I cannot say.
Okay, well, I'm motivated by the way he speaks. I think Jeff is too. So we're calling him a Reverend. I called him Reverend this morning.
I am not motivated.
Going on. What?
I am not motivated when he speaks, but to each
okay.
Their, it's fine.
Hey, it may not come to fruition, but at least he sounds excited when he talks.
Okay. Great. Fantastic.
That doesn't get you in the end zone. I mean, he's the guy that's been running the drills before the game with the first team offense out on the field before the game. I would think the offense would be somewhat happy that he's taking over.
He did make a good point. The 1, 2, 3 go Browns guy is now actually going to be in the huddle on the field. So
thank you.
There will be some residual energy.
All right. Well, here, do this. Let's play positive and negative. Tell me why he's good for the offense.
Because he's not Deshaun Watson right now.
Is he going to be able to push the ball down the field?
Well, both quarterbacks can push the ball down the field. The question is, will the passes be completed downfield?
So you want to blame the wide receivers for everything on this, or is that what are you saying? Or the offensive line? Or
I got to double check something real quick because it just hit me as you raised that point about pushing the ball down the field.
Yes.
No, I was right. Okay.
Last place.
No, not only are the Browns the only team in the league to not have scored 20 points in a game this season. I'm pretty confident in saying this. I've not researched this, so if I'm wrong, I deeply apologize. I do believe the Browns are the only team in the NFL to not have a play go for 40 yards this season. Their longest play came at Jacksonville September 15th. It was 36 yards, Jerome Ford.
It was almost 40. Almost 40 should be a stat.
There's
you know, they got the arrows that go like this and like that, and then they get the equal sign. There's like an arrow that kind of is. Never mind.
Would you, Dad Joke Baskin? Would you like to know the longest pass completion of the season?
I'm going to go 17 yards.
Times 2, and you're close.
I'm at 34 yards.
You're off by 1. 35 yards at Philadelphia. Deshaun Watson to Jerry Jeudy.
It's great. It's good stuff.
Now, would you like to know how many plays the Browns have given up of 40 or more yards?
I'm going to say at least. I'm going to go 9.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 6.
I was going to say 7, and then I'm like, no, maybe it's worse.
Now, if you would have said 7, you would have been right.
Oh, it was 7.
It was 7, yes.
I should have went with my gut on that.
Yeah. The longest play that they've given up the entire season was at Washington, the McLaurin 66-yard catch.
All right, Daryl, we have a lot more to talk about, especially when it comes to the new stadium, the dome, all those things going on. So we'll come back. Daryl has news and information you're not getting anywhere else but right here on It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. Tell me what's going to happen. Are they going to the dome or are they staying downtown?
Well, the city of Cleveland is right now saying very publicly that they plan to sue the Browns under the Art Modell law, which was enacted back in 1996, the summer of 96. Of course, that was after the Browns moved to Baltimore, and they became the Ravens. Basically, the Art Modell law was put in place to protect from what happened in the 90s from happening again. And that was, the team packing up and leaving. And so basically what the Art Modell law says, I'll try and paraphrase here. Basically, it says no owner of a sports team that uses a tax-supported facility for most of its home games and gets financial assistance from the state or political subdivision shall stop playing most of its home games at the facility that's been funded and can't play elsewhere unless, one, they enter into an agreement with the municipality to allow the team to go ahead and play elsewhere. So to translate that for you, the city of Cleveland would have to give the Browns the blessing to go play in Brook Park. Or B, gives that city where the facility is located 6 months advance notice. Check. That's been done. I would say like 4 years notice is more than 6 months, right?
True. Absolutely true.
Okay, so that part. But also, too, it gives that city or a group of individuals who reside in that area an opportunity to buy the team. Now, I can tell you that the Haslams are not going to sell the Cleveland Browns. They certainly, you're not going to find anyone in Cuyahoga County that has over $5.1 billion laying around to buy the Browns.
Do they have to live in the city of Cleveland, or what if like
that is it's very ambiguous, but basically you have to get, look, I can't see how this even survives in court, but I'm not a lawyer. As you know, laws are written by lawyers and in ways to, here's what I think's happening. I think the city of Cleveland's trying to blackmail the Browns into getting some money. Like I'm being serious. Like I think.
Well, okay. Hey, but if you're gonna say that, let's backtrack or just lay it out for me.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I think that if I think they want the Browns to cut them a fat check, and then they'll say, "Yeah, good luck in Brook Park." That's all they want. They're trying to extort money out of the Browns here. The mayor already asked the Browns to pay to tear down the existing stadium. I know for a fact that the mayor asked them for money for small businesses, which, by the way, those small businesses on West 6th had the tailgate scene taken away because the city wouldn't do their jobs and make sure that those tailgates were safe. And then they blamed it on the tailgates. And then this past week, Eureka, all of a sudden there was a massive police presence on West 6th Street, unlike previous tailgates. So, I think that there's some political gamesmanship going on here.
Why? Because it was said on the radio about 13 times about how they want to protect these businesses, but we couldn't even hold our own tailgate there anymore?
Correct. So
you think the city took some heat? Maybe actually somebody was listening?
Well, but here's the thing. If the problem has been removed, why did they need to step up the police presence?
Well, right? Why did they? I mean,
to prove a point, to make it look like the tailgates were the problem.
Oh, it was on the tailgate. It was the tailgate. Okay. Well, they were kind of the problem, weren't they? I mean,
no, not really.
They were fighting, right? So
people not going to the tailgate that were fighting that the cops wouldn't do anything about.
Oh, people that weren't going to. Oh, wow. So they stepped up. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, had a little open container problem related to maybe a small business that might be in the neighborhood. So, like, this was not all above board by the city of Cleveland. And now the same politicians that told the Browns to pound salt during the negotiations when the Browns were like, hey, we need a city contribution. We're looking for a county contribution. We're looking for a state contribution. And the city leaders basically told the Browns to their face, from what I was told, they were told to pound salt. And any new agreement that has...
The Browns were told to pound salt by the city.
Yeah. They were like, hey, if there's any city dollars involved, this deal is dead on arrival. And, quote, dead on arrival, unquote, is a direct quote from one of those meetings from a source that I spoke with.
Wow. Okay.
So you can't tell a team to go pound salt. They go pound salt in Brook Park, And then you come back and say, oh, no, you can't leave. We're invoking the Modell law because taxpayer money was used on your stadium and you're obligated to us. You have to stay, but we're going to do nothing to help you stay. Like that's what the city's doing, right? How absurd does that sound to you?
It sounds absurd. It sounds absurd. It's weird, though, if you look at some of the polls that I don't know, one poll I looked at, it was kind of 50-50 on people on the split on whether people want them to go to Brook Park or not.
Right. Well, and so
here's my fear. Here's my ultimate fear that the city is going to cause all these problems, that the city is going to hinder the move. My bigger fear is that the county is going to do something to mess up the move. And guess what? As soon as the county messes this thing up, you're talking about the Browns moving then to Medina, Summit. I mean, that is just not out of the realm.
Somebody should tell Chris O'Neill that Brook Park is located in Cuyahoga County, right across where you're about to invest $3 billion with a B dollars in the airport, with a complex that's going to be able to service said $3 billion with a B dollars investment in the airport. But this guy is so stuck on they got to be in Cleveland. It's got to be in downtown Cleveland. No.
Well, his background, though, a lot of his background is lakefront stuff, isn't it? That he's been trying to do
you know what? He should be proud because there ain't shit on the lakefront. Sorry for my French. There's the Rock Hall, the Science Center, and nothing else.
There's a Mexican, right? There's a Mexican place down there, Mexican food place.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, okay. There's one restaurant too.
And the USS Mather is there. Let's not forget about that. And let's not forget about the Port of Cleveland. We got cruise ships coming to Cleveland now. Come on down. See the cruise ships. But come on, man.
But you get my point. Like,
yeah, they need to put a beach there. They need to put one of those Ports of Cleveland little marts like they have at every Caribbean little mart you can go to if you're ever going on.
It's just there's been a lot of disingenuous negotiation that has gone on. And the disingenuous negotiation has not been the Cleveland Browns. Shockingly, right?
No, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked by any of this stuff.
So,
by the way, does this all end on November 5th?
No.
The noise doesn't stop on November 5th? No.
It could get much worse after November 5th, but that's a different conversation. And then, of course, let's I wanted to touch on the Brook Lakefront thing.
Okay.
Because that was Bibbs' last-ditch effort. He's like, hey.
The Brook Lakefront thing that everyone's talked about for decades?
Right.
Okay.
So Bibbs' last-ditch effort was, what if we give you Burke? Build on Burke.
Right.
I want to close the airport. You can build there. So I've got some dollar figures.
Wait, let's just triple check. You know this for a fact. I just want to make sure. Burke is a landfill, correct? Like that, the land isn't exactly perfectly solid there, is it?
It's man-made land,
okay.
Which the existing stadium also resides on. Basically, the entire North Shore downtown.
Everything on the other side of the freeway.
It's all man-made land.
Although, which is going to be a boulevard now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another genius effort from the political establishment around here. Which, by the way, is totally fine if the stadium goes away. It totally makes sense to turn that into a boulevard if there's no stadium there. But if there's going to be a stadium there, it's the dumbest idea ever.
It makes it even harder to get to the stadium.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I found out about, let's say that they have to build at Burke, right?
Okay.
Here, the dome that they had designed would obviously have to be modified. They'd actually, instead of being in the ground, they'd have to have a facade around this thing.
Right, for sure, to stop from the water.
So they can't put it in the ground. Price tag starts at $3.3 billion. So it's $900 million more than the Brook Park Dome, assuming that construction starts in 2026.
Okay.
Because all of these numbers are based on construction starting in 2026. That's when the Browns want to start building.
Okay.
I was told that the team's contribution, though, still stays at $1.2 billion plus cost overrun.
Okay.
That means that the public portion goes up by $900 million. Now, there's also hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure that will be required too. Site preparation, site access, highway tie-in, all that stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's not included in this cost. This is just to physically build what the Browns have had designed with an exterior above ground, right? On the lakefront at Burke. So you've got $900 million more in the Tilly, plus you've got another a couple $100 million in infrastructure costs that get thrown in the till as well. Now, the airport may not be able to be closed until 2036.
Wait a second. You mean Burke?
Correct.
Right.
Because if it gets closed any earlier, the city has to pay about $10 million back to the FAA in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
For improvements. And then I'm guessing, too, they'll have to reimburse some businesses that had investments in the airport as well.
Sure.
So it stands to reason that the city is going to want to wait until 2036.
And don't you also have to upgrade Cuyahoga County, too?
Well, you got to upgrade. You got to do something somewhere to accommodate the loss of Burke, right?
Gotcha.
So now, basically, site availability and or construction delays could add upwards depending on the length of those delays, right? You're talking another potential $1.5 billion added on top of all that.
All right, hang on. I've got a lot more I want to talk about that. Let's we'll come back here in a second.
Now, doesn't it?
What?
Your
head hurts? Yeah, but it's spinning because it doesn't make any sense. That's why. Let's come back. We'll come back in a minute. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. All right, Daryl, you have dropped some bombshells on us as far as costs and things that have to do with the Browns and moving to the Dome and, people talking about this or that. I'll always just let me just lay out my feelings on the whole thing. Like, this is not about football. For me, I don't look at it as being about football. If it was, I'd say stay in the stadium for your 15 games a year and then let that thing have cobwebs for the rest of the season. It doesn't make a difference. Talking about having a building that's active for a community, that's active for a county for more than 15 dates a year, talking about jobs. I've talked to the building trades about this, that they've told me that or at least one of the sectors of the building trade has said the new dome would create at least 900 jobs for folks that would have to build the dome. And that's just the dome. That's not the entire project. So we're talking about jobs for Northeast Ohio. We're talking about, we're talking about a $4.1 billion project versus a $1.2 billion project to renovate where they are right now. To me, as a guy that grew up in a middle-class family in Northeast Ohio, watched my dad get laid off all the time as an electrician, man, that's the first thing my eyes see is Clevelanders, not multimillionaires who are playing football. Not a billionaire owner who's going to make profit off it. Someone's going to profit off of everything. Everyone's always got their hands out. So at least you know who's getting the money, whether you think it's good or bad. When I look at this stuff, this is what I see. I see jobs for Northeast Ohio. I see a new district. I see 2 new districts going up here. One on the lakefront, one out out by Berea at Brook Park. So I just see jobs and I see potential and I see a forward-thinking city like Columbus, like other cities that have pushed forward, like Buffalo, who's building a new stadium. To me now, like, they got it done. Why can't we get it done? Go ahead.
Yeah, but they didn't put a roof on theirs.
Well, that's true. They didn't put a roof on theirs, which I'm still trying to figure out why.
They're paying like $2 billion for a stadium without a roof.
And they're still going to have to bring their shovels, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to have this nice, big, beautiful canopy on it, but they still got to shovel out the stands. But hey, maybe they really
That's what they want. That's what they want. That's okay. I can live with it.
There up in Buffalo. So what else do you want to know after I gave you a headache with all those numbers?
Well, I just let me just go through the gist of what you've said. First of all, you feel like the city is trying to blackmail. Your words, not mine. The city is trying to blackmail the Browns, right? You're on the record for saying that?
Blackmail, extort. Basically, they want the Browns to cut them a check, right? I mean, because that's why you're suing them. Right? That's what most lawsuits, right? What is the cure for lawsuits? Money.
Settlement.
Right. Money.
Yeah.
Right? We have experience following lawsuits in this town, unfortunately, in the last few years. So what makes them go away? Money. So, by the way, I want to make clear, I said a lot of that tongue in cheek when I was talking about blackmail and extort, but that's really what this is about. It's about, they want their piece of the pie. They're,
So Daryl, you also tweeted yesterday that the second a judge looks at this, they're going to be like, well, what do the Browns do that's against the Art Modell? So walk me through that one more time too.
Yeah, well, so that's just my view. Like, if I'm a judge, I toss this in 30 seconds, but I don't think this is going to get tossed in 30 seconds. And here's why.
Meanwhile, who's paying? Wait a second. Who's paying for the lawyers for the city?
The law department. This is
so that's taxpayer dollars that are rolling on the lawyers for that.
I live in Cleveland, so my tax dollars, instead of going to pay for paving my roads or making the schools, which, by the way, school systems broke in Cleveland. They want another $400 to $500 a year from me. I don't have kids, by the way. The city of Cleveland wants a couple $100 a year from me in property tax for a school system that sucks, that is mismanaged, that bleeds money every year, and they just want us to keep funding it, right? So as a taxpayer in Cleveland who actually pays taxes, I'm not getting anything really for my taxes. Utilities aren't that great. The roads are terrible. It's like driving on Mars with all the potholes. The school system sucks, although I did read a state report that says that it's been showing some marked improvement by some metrics or whatever. But they got to do more. Like they're spending all this money on all this stuff. By the way, the stadium costs the city money. The Browns cost the city money. And again, you can't go in meetings and say, yeah, you guys lose us money every year, but and then in the public be like, damn those Browns for daring to think to go to Brook Park. We're suing you now. Like, the disingenuousness of these politicians enrage me. It really does. Because I asked some pretty pointed questions to folks today, and I did not get responses. And that also infuriates me. You're fine talking about things up until I ask you a direct question that calls the motives into question of why things are being done the way they're being done. And then all of a sudden it's radio silence. We're not answering any questions about it. So the whole political thing is very infuriating. And there's a lot. And also let's keep in mind too, the Haslams are Republicans. They support Republican candidates at all levels of government. And Cleveland is basically run by Democrats. They did not support Mayor Bibb when he was running for mayor. They supported his opponent. You know what I'm saying? So there's some political animus mixed in here as well, which again, it shouldn't, but that's all part of the showmanship. So, it was impressed upon me, the fact that because of, and I got to pull it up because there's a bunch of taxes that have gone towards the construction of the existing stadium. Okay. The taxes are, I got to find the graph in my story because I wrote like 1,500 words on this today. The county sin tax, the city admissions tax, city parking tax, and a car rental tax all make this Modell law relevant. These are all taxes that paid for the construction of the existing stadium. Remember, going back to the 14-15 renovation that the Haslams did, they fronted the money, about $130 million. They asked Cleveland for $2 million per year over 15 years to be reimbursed to them. And so that $2 million is currently coming out of the city general fund to reimburse the Browns. So that's why this Modell law actually does have standing. But my argument is, well, they will have, as of the conclusion of the 2028 football season, whether that's in December 2028 or January 2029, the Browns will have fulfilled the terms of the lease that was signed between the city and the National Football League back in 1996. The stadium will have been paid for. The city will have been left with no debt. And right. So like, what's the problem here? And someone said to me today, this isn't about the lease. This is about the principle of the Modell law. And you can't move the team out of the city because their stadium is taxpayer subsidized. And that's the Modell law. And the only way the Browns are going to be allowed to leave the city of Cleveland is if the Browns cut a check. That's what's going to resolve this. If the Browns cut the city of Cleveland a check, they'll all shut up. They all want their piece. That's what this comes down to. And I'm just giving you the unvarnished.
Sure, I get it.
This is what it is, because that's why you're taking. Do you really think the city wants the Browns to stay after all this? First of all, does the city have any money to contribute to a new stadium? No. Look at what the city proposed. Continuation of the admissions tax, using sin tax, and using parking revenue from two city-owned facilities. The Willard Garage, which is under City Hall off East 9th Street, and I think it's Superior Lakeside or whatever there. And
it's right there.
And then the Muni lot. Okay. Well, that does nothing really to help the Browns, because one of the big reasons the Browns want to build the dome is they can control 15 to 20,000 parking spaces and take that revenue in for themselves. Whereas in the current stadium, the Browns get zero parking revenue, right? So that is a major motivation for the Browns to do this.
What if the city said, hey, the Muni lot's yours?
Well, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. But like,
and by the way, we're going to turn Burke into we're going to turn that into a parking lot too. You can have that.
Well, I mean, no, that ain't going to happen either. But
just throwing ideas out there.
I know.
What if they annex? What if Brook Park annexes 0.001 so that they can put the address as a Cleveland City address on the new dome?
I don't,
because it's literally on the line.
I know
it's on the line.
And my understanding is Brook Park's not interested in any type of annexation deal with the city of Cleveland.
Did the city even talk to him about it or no? And by the way, why wasn't anybody crying when the Ford workers went out of business, when the Ford plants went under, and people are like, "Oh, poor Ford workers, they're out of." But wait a second, Brook Park has a chance to revitalize the land that used to be so fruitful for Northeast Ohio, for the country.
Yeah,
I don't hear anybody talking about that. Do you?
No. That's all this is. It's disingenuous political posturing. The city of Cleveland's broke, okay? And the mayor has a point. The one thing I do agree with Mayor Bibb on, yeah, city doesn't have money to give the Cleveland Browns for their stadium. They don't.
Sure.
They can't fund the schools right now. The schools are $150 million in the red, okay? That's why they have to pass this, like this levy has to be passed. And I don't and I understand it. Like it is a very tough spot to be in, but you can't can't afford the safety services. You can't afford the schools. You can't afford the roads. You can't afford this. You can't afford that. You can't afford having the Cleveland Browns. So why are you so up in arms about the team wanting to move across?
Because you got a chance to cash in.
Like I just that's the thing that I'm speaking as a citizen. Like I'm not,
you work in the city of Cleveland, you pay taxes in the city of Cleveland too, by the way.
Yeah.
You don't have to just.
I live in the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
But like, and trust me, I'm to a point I'm dying to move out of the city of Cleveland. I just wish I had enough money where I could actually afford to do that, but I can't.
Go get a job in Brook Park. You'll be fine. There's new work going on there. Actually, go get a job at the new lakefront development. Can we develop that, please? Can we do that? He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin for Evan O'Brien, our outstanding producer. It's always game day in Cleveland. We'll be back after the Browns-Ravens game for our post-game report.
And what a delight I'm sure that game is going to be.
Oh, boy.